March 15th, 1900, Volume 3. Jesus feels disarmed by the victim souls. Since he continued not to come, I was consumed with sorrow, and I felt such a fever as to become delirious. Now, since the confessor came to celebrate the divine sacrifice, I received communion, but I could not see my dear Jesus as usual, so I began to speak my nonsense. "Tell me, my good, why do you not make yourself seen? This time it seems to me that I have given you no occasion to withdraw. How can you just leave me like this? How not even the friends of the earth act in this way? When they have to be apart, at least they say goodbye to each other. And you say not even goodbye to me. How can it be? Is this the way to behave? Forgive me if I speak in this way. It is the fever that makes me delirious and makes me reach folly. Who can say all the nonsense I spoke to him? It would be like wanting to waste time. Now, while I was raving and crying, Jesus showed now one hand, now one arm. Then I saw the confessor giving me the obedience to suffer the crucifixion, and Jesus, as though forced by obedience, made himself seen. And immediately I said to him, "Why were you not letting yourself be seen?" And he, showing a serious appearance, said, "It is nothing. It is nothing. It is that I want to chastise the earth, and if I am in good relations even with one creature, I feel disarmed, and I have no strength to lay hand to the chastisements. Because when I make myself seen, if you see that I have to send chastisements, you begin to say, 'Pour them into me, make me suffer.' And I feel conquered by you, so I never lay hand to the chastisements, and men do nothing but grow bolder." Now, as the confessor continued to repeat the obedience of making me suffer the crucifixion, Jesus showed himself slow in letting me do this obedience, not like the other times, in which he immediately wanted me to submit myself. He said to me, "And you, what do you want to do?" And I, "Lord, whatever you want." So, turning to the confessor with a serious aspect, he said to him, "You too want to bind me by giving her this obedience to suffer?" And while saying this, he began to share the pains of the cross with me. Then, showing himself appeased, he poured his bitternesses, and then he added, "Where is the confessor?" And I, "Lord, I don't know where he went. Indeed, I don't see him with us any more." And he, "I want him, because just as he refreshed me, I want to refresh him." March 15th, 1908, Volume 8. When souls are all filled with God, storms have no strength to agitate them even slightly. This morning I was feeling more than ever oppressed because of the privation of my highest and only good, but at the same time I was placid, without those anxieties that used to make me go round through heaven and earth, and only when I would find him then I would stop. So I was saying to myself, "What a change! I feel petrified from the pain of your absence, yet I do not cry. I feel a profound peace that invests me completely. Not a contrary breath enters into me." At that moment, blessed Jesus came and told me, "My daughter, do not want to trouble yourself. You must know that when there is a strong storm in the sea, where the waters are deep, the storm is only superficial. The depths of the sea are in the most perfect calm. The waters remain tranquil, and the fish, when they detect the storm, go to nest where the water is deeper so as to be safer. So the whole storm unloads itself where the sea contains very little water, because since there is little water, the storm has the strength to agitate it from top to bottom, and even to transport it elsewhere, to other points of the sea. So it happens to souls when they are completely filled with God, up to the brim, up to overflowing outside. Storms have no strength to upset them even slightly, because there is no strength that can defy God. At the most they may feel it superficially. Even more, as the soul detects the storm, she puts the virtues in order and goes to nest in the inmost depths of God. So while externally there seems to be a storm, it is completely false. It is then that the soul enjoys more peace and rests, tranquil in the bosom of God, just like the fish in the bosom of the sea. All the opposite for the souls who are empty of God or contain just a little bit of God. Storms agitate them all over, and if they have a little bit of God, they waste it. Nor does it take strong storms to agitate them. The slightest wind is enough to make virtues flee from them. Even more, holy things themselves, which form a delicious pasture for those former souls who enjoy them to their fill, for these souls turn into storms. They are knocked about by all the winds. From no side is it ever dead calm for them, because reason demands that where the whole of God is not, the inheritance of peace is far away from them. March 15th, 1912, Volume 11. The divine will is the sanctity of sanctities, and the soul who does it on earth as in heaven is a queen soul who gives life to all the good done on earth and in heaven. These souls are the true consecrated hosts of the divine will. Continuing in my usual state, I felt a great desire to do the most holy will of blessed Jesus, and he came and told me, "My daughter, my will is the sanctity of sanctities. The soul who does my will according to the perfection that I am teaching you, that is on earth as it is in heaven, however small, ignorant, and ignored, leaves even other saints behind in spite of their prodigies, the most clamorous conversions, and the miracles. Really, in comparison, the souls who do my will in the way it is in my third Fiat are queens, and it is as if all the others were at their service. It seems that the souls who live in my will do nothing, while they actually do everything, because being in my will, these souls act divinely, in a hidden and surprising way. They are light which illuminates, wind which purifies, fire which burns, miracles which cause miracles. Those who do miracles are channels, but in these souls resides the power. Therefore they are the foot of the missionary, the tongue of the preachers, the strength of the weak, the patience of the sick, the regime of the superiors, the obedience of the subjects, the tolerance of the slandered, the firmness in the dangers, the heroism in the heroes, the courage in the martyrs, the sanctity in the saints, and so on with all the rest. Being in my will, they concur with all the good that can be both in heaven and on earth. This is why I can surely say that they are my true hosts, but living hosts, not dead ones. The accidents that form the host are not full of life, neither do they influence my life. But the soul who lives in my divine will is full of life, and doing my will, she influences and concurs with all that I do. This is why these consecrated hosts of my will are more dear to me than the very sacramental hosts. And if I have reason to exist in the sacramental hosts, it is to form the sacramental hosts of my will. My daughter, I take such delight in my will that, in simply hearing talk about it, I feel overjoyed, and I call the whole of heaven to make feast. Imagine what will become of those souls who will do it. I find in them all the joys, so I give all the joys to them. Their life is the life of the blessed. They care about, desire, and yearn for two things only, my will and love. They need to do very little else, while in fact they do everything. The virtues themselves remain absorbed in my will and in love. Therefore, they have nothing to do with them, since my will contains, possesses, and absorbs all, but in a divine manner, immense and endless. This is the life of the blessed. March 15th, 1925, Volume 17. How the Divine Will has the power to form the life of our Lord in the creature. I was fusing all of myself in the Holy Divine Will, but while I was doing this, I felt all the bitterness of the privation of my sweet Jesus, even though I am almost used to suffering the absence of him. However, every time I am without him, it is always a new pain. It seems to me that every time I remain deprived of the life of my life, Jesus puts a higher degree of pain, and I feel more vividly the pain of his absence. Oh, how true it is that in Jesus, both pains and joys are always new. Now, while I was abandoning myself in his will, my adorable Jesus from within my interior put a hand outside, all filled with light. But in his hand he had also mine, so identified with his, that one could barely see that, instead of one, there were two hands transformed together. And Jesus, compassionating my extreme littleness, told me, "My daughter, the light of my will is transformed together with your will and forms one single life. The light becomes life, and the heat, which the light contains, empties and consumes all that may prevent the identification with my life and the forming of one single life." Why do you afflict yourself so much? Don't you feel this life of mine within you? And not fantastic, but real. How many times do you not feel in you my life operating, other times suffering? And other times I feel you so much with me that you are forced to lose your motion, your breath, your mental faculties, and your very nature loses its life to give place to mine. And then, so that you may live again, I am forced to restrict myself within you, to let you acquire the natural motion and the use of your senses. But I remain always inside of you. And don't you notice that every time you see me, it is from within your interior that you see me come out? So why do you fear that I may leave you, if you do feel this life of mine within you? And my Jesus, it is true that I feel in me another life which operates, suffers, moves, breathes, lays itself within me, but so much so that I myself am unable to say what happens to me. Many times I believe I am about to die, but as that life which I feel within me becomes smaller, withdrawing from my arms, from my head, I begin to live again. But many times I do not see you. I feel you, but I do not see your adorable presence, and I fear. I am almost afraid of that life which I feel within me, thinking, who can be the one who has so much dominion within me that I feel a rag under his power? Could he not be also an enemy of mine? And if I want to oppose what he wants to do in me, he becomes so strong and imposing as to leave me not one act of my will. So soon I surrender, letting him win over me. And Jesus, my daughter, my will alone has this power of forming its life in the creature. It is clear that the soul has given me, who knows how many times, sure evidence that she wants to live of my will, not of her own, because each act of human will which is not in me prevents the forming of my life. This is the greatest prodigy that my will can work, my life in the creature. Its light prepares me the place. Its heat purifies and consumes all that might be unsuitable for my life, and provides me with the necessary elements in order to develop my life. Therefore let me do, that I may accomplish all that my will has established upon you. End of March 15th. Fiat.